Hi, enjoy listening. Lauren Mitchell sat by the window in her small apartment, staring out at the streetlight that flickered against the empty road. Her grandmother's bed was only a few steps away. The silence of the night pressed on her ears, broken only by the sound of Evelyn's uneven breathing. Evelyn had always been the strongest person in Lauren's life. Through her parents' sudden deaths, through the mountain of debt, through nights when dinner was little more than bread and tea, Evelyn never complained. But now, at 81, her strength was fading. "Don't cry, Lauren," Evelyn whispered that evening, her voice thin but firm. "I won't be here much longer. You have to learn to stand without me." Lauren shook her head quickly. "Don't say that, Grandma. You're not going anywhere. We're almost free. One more paycheck and all the debts are gone." 3 years earlier, tragedy had torn Lauren's family apart. She had been 17 when the car crash happened. Her mother, Claire, died instantly. Her father, Robert, survived, but the accident left him paralyzed and bitter. For 2 years, Lauren cared for him, listening to his angry words and feeling the weight of bills piling on the table. When Robert finally passed, Lauren was left with Evelyn and a heap of unpaid medical debt. She had done everything she could. She worked weekends, handing out ice cream at the park, folding clothes in department stores, cleaning houses. She skipped meals so Evelyn could take her medication. Even now, at 20, Lauren's life was a careful routine of lists, receipts, and late nights balancing numbers. That night, Evelyn reached out a trembling hand. "Lauren, I need to tell you something. A secret I've kept my whole life." Lauren sat down beside her. "What is it?" "When I was little," Evelyn began, "there were 2 of us. I had a sister, Catherine. Our father was cruel, our mother sick. Before she died, she gave us each a small box. She told us it carried the crest of her family, that it was all we had left of where we came from. After she passed, we were separated. Catherine was taken by another family. I never saw her again." Lauren blinked in surprise. She had never heard a word of this before. Evelyn reached beneath her pillow and pulled out a small velvet-wrapped object. She placed it gently in Lauren's hands. The box was no bigger than Lauren's palm. Its surface gleamed with metal filigree, inlaid with stones that shimmered even in the dim light. It was beautiful, and far too fine to belong to a family that had always struggled to pay bills. "This was my mother's gift," Evelyn said softly. "Promise me you'll protect it." Lauren touched the cold surface, her chest tightening. She nodded. Within 3 days, Evelyn was gone. Lauren felt the apartment had lost its heartbeat. The rooms were empty, though filled with debt notices, grocery lists, and silence. Mrs. Greenfield, the neighbour across the hall, had offered help with funeral expenses. "You'll pay me back when you can," she told Lauren. Though Lauren hated owing yet another debt. Still, life didn't wait. Bills piled higher. Groceries grew thinner. And then the plumbing in her apartment burst, flooding into the apartment below. The man who lived there, Mr. Dalton, was waiting when she came down the stairs. His belly strained against his shirt, and his eyes scanned her in a way that made her skin crawl. "You've made a real mess," he said, blocking the stairwell. "I've just finished my kitchen. Do you know what this will cost me?" "I'll pay for it," she replied. Lauren said quickly. I just need time. You've got 3 days, he sneered, or you'll pay in another way. Lauren's stomach turned. She clutched her grandmother's box tighter than ever. That night, staring at it on the table, she made a decision she never thought she would. Tomorrow, she would go to the pawn shop. Sunday morning. Lauren wrapped the small box in a scarf and placed it carefully into her bag. Her fingers trembled as she zipped it shut. The thought of pawning her grandmother's last possession made her stomach ache, but she saw no other way out. She walked quickly down the street, eyes low, trying not to meet anyone's gaze. Her neighborhood wasn't the safest, and she had grown used to the stares of men like Mr. Dalton. The night before, she had replayed his words again and again, her chest tightening until she could barely breathe. By the time she reached the pawn shop on Main Street, her legs felt like they were made of lead. The shop looked old, but it was tidy. Polished wood counters, soft lighting, glass cases lined with watches, rings, and small antiques. The air smelled faintly of leather and old books. "Good morning," a voice said. Lauren looked up. Behind the counter stood a man in his 50s with silver hair and kind eyes. He wasn't what she expected from a pawnbroker. He smiled politely, waiting. "Hi," Lauren whispered. I need to see how much this is worth." She pulled the box from her bag, unwrapped the scarf, and placed it on the counter. The man leaned forward. For a moment, his face froze. His hand hovered above the box, but didn't touch it. Finally, he reached for a pair of glasses and slid them on. "Where did you get this?" His voice was low, careful. "It belonged to my grandmother," Lauren said, suddenly nervous. "She gave it to me before she passed." The man's eyes softened, but he didn't look away from the box. "What was her name?" Evelyn Harper." The man exhaled sharply, as if he had been holding his breath for years. He turned toward a cabinet behind him, unlocked it, and pulled out another box. He set it down beside hers. Lauren's mouth fell open. It was nearly identical. "My mother's name," the man said quietly, "is Catherine Bennett. She's alive, and Evelyn was her sister." Lauren staggered back. "What? That's not possible!" The man shook his head. "It is. I kept this box here for years, hoping one day someone would bring the other one. I never thought it would happen." Lauren's mind swirled. Debt notices, Mr. Dalton's threats, Evelyn's frail voice saying, "You have to protect it," and now this stranger telling her that the grandmother she buried days ago had a sister still alive. The man extended his hand. "My name is Richard Bennett. Please, come with me. My mother needs to see you." Lauren hesitated. Every instinct told her not to get in a car with someone she barely knew. But something in Richard's steady eyes kept her from walking away. Against all reason, she nodded. "All right." They drove across town to a large gated property. The iron gate swung open as if expecting them. Inside was a wide lawn, a garden of apple trees, and a white house with tall windows. On the porch sat an elderly woman in a tailored suit, a sun hat tilted over her silver hair. She looked up as they pulled in. Her book slid from her lap when she saw Lauren. Slowly, she rose to her feet and walked toward the car. Richard helped his mother down the steps. She stopped a few feet from Lauren and studied her face. Her eyes widened. "She looks like Evelyn," the woman whispered. The hand went to her mouth. "No, she looks like me." Lauren clutched the bag against her chest, her heart racing. Richard opened the scarf and lifted the box. Catherine's knees buckled and she nearly fell. Lauren reached out instinctively and caught her. The old woman's voice cracked. "Tell me, child, did my sister live to see her 80s? Lauren's eyes burned with tears. She shook her head. "She passed a few days ago." Catherine closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. Then she pulled Lauren into her arms with surprising strength. "Your family," she whispered. "You're all I have left of her." Lauren sat at a long dining table, surrounded by people she had never met, but who treated her as if she belonged. Richard's wife moved easily between the kitchen and the table, setting down steaming plates of food. His daughter Grace, a college student with bright eyes and quick questions, leaned forward, eager to know everything about Lauren's life. Daniel, Richard's son, sat across from her, his sharp jaw and guarded expression reminding her of someone who didn't trust easily. But when he looked at his grandmother, his face softened. And then there was Anna, Daniel's little girl. She sat on Catherine's lap, swinging her legs, her small hand resting on the older woman's wrist. When she smiled at Lauren, it was open, pure, without hesitation. Lauren didn't know how to respond. She had walked into this house carrying a box she was desperate to pawn, and now she was being treated as family. Catherine's voice cut through the chatter. "Tell us everything, Lauren. No secrets. I need to know what happened to my sister's life." Lauren swallowed hard. Her eyes shifted to her plate. "It's not a happy story." "We can handle it," Richard said gently. So she told them. About her parents' accident, about her father's bitterness and slow death, about Evelyn's strength until the very end, about the debts, the jobs, the nights she fell asleep at the kitchen table, trying to stretch $20 into a week's worth of food. When she spoke of Mr. Dalton and his threat, Daniel's fork clattered against the table. His jaw tightened, his knuckles white against the wood. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that this man threatened you with blackmail because of a leak? And you were ready to pawn a family heirloom to get rid of him?" Lauren's cheeks burned. "I didn't know what else to do." Silence hung for a moment. Then Catherine's voice cut in, sharp and cold. "This is unacceptable. No one threatens family. Not mine." Richard leaned back, looking at his son. "What do you think?" Daniel smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I think Mr. Dalton needs a visit." Lauren's pulse spiked. "No, you can't. He'll call the police. He'll twist the story. He'll—" But before she could finish, Daniel pulled a wallet from his back pocket and flipped it open, revealing a badge. Lauren froze. You're a cop." "Detective," Daniel corrected. "And I don't take kindly to men who prey on young women." Richard pushed back his chair. "I'm going with you." Lauren stood so quickly, her chair scraped against the floor. "Please don't. You don't understand what he's like. He—" Grace reached over and squeezed her hand. "You don't have to fight this alone anymore." For the first time in years, Lauren felt something unfamiliar. Relief. Half an hour later, she found herself sitting in the back seat of Daniel's car as he and Richard drove toward her building. Her heart hammered in her chest. She wasn't sure if she was terrified or if, for once, she finally felt safe. The hallway of Lauren's apartment building smelled faintly of mildew and cigarettes. Paint peeled from the walls, and the buzzing light overhead flickered in and out. Lauren trailed behind Richard and Daniel, her stomach tight. She wasn't sure what would happen when the door opened, but she knew Mr. Dalton would not welcome them. Daniel pressed the buzzer. A moment later, the door cracked open. Mr. Dalton's face appeared, flushed and irritated. His eyes shifted from Daniel to Richard, then landed on Lauren. His lip curled. "Oh well, thought you'd come crawling back. What did you bring me, sweetheart?" Before Lauren could answer, Daniel pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "Victor Dalton. Detective Daniel Bennett, City Police. We need to talk." Dalton's smirk faltered. "Police? About what?" "About how you threatened a young woman under the guise of property damage," Daniel said. "About how you tried to pressure her into—" He paused deliberately. "Something she never consented to." Dalton barked a laugh, though it sounded forced. "That's ridiculous. She ruined my kitchen. I gave her a chance to make it right. That's all." Richard stepped forward. "Your ceiling had a couple of water spots. Nothing more. You lied, and you tried to use it to trap her." Lauren hovered near the doorway, her palms damp. She couldn't believe this was happening in her dingy hallway, in her tired apartment building. Dalton's voice rose. "You've got no proof. This is my home. Get out before I—" Daniel pulled out a small recorder and pressed play. Lauren's breath caught when she heard her own trembling voice from earlier that week, recorded on her phone after she fled the stairwell. Dalton's words followed, unmistakable. "You've got 3 days. Or you'll pay in another way." Dalton's face drained of colour. "Proof enough?" Daniel asked coolly. Dalton stammered. That could mean anything." Daniel stepped closer, his voice low. "You want to test that theory at the precinct? In front of a judge? Or do you want to pack your things and disappear before charges are filed?" Dalton's mouth opened and closed like a fish. For once, he had no words. Richard's voice was steady. "If we ever hear that you've bothered Lauren again, if you so much as step into her path, I'll make sure you regret it." Dalton backed into his kitchen, his face twisted in rage and fear. "Fine. Take your little orphan. She's not worth the trouble." Daniel turned to Lauren. "Go upstairs. Pack what matters. You're not staying here." Lauren's throat tightened. "But I don't have anywhere else." Richard put a hand on her shoulder. "Yes, you do. With us." Lauren's knees nearly gave out. She nodded, too overwhelmed to speak, and hurried upstairs. She grabbed clothes, the stack of debt notices, and Evelyn's framed photograph. She left the rest behind. When she came back down, Daniel and Richard were waiting by the car. Mr. Dalton's door was shut tight. As the car pulled away from the building, Lauren looked out the window at the apartment she had struggled to hold on to for so long. For the first time, she didn't feel regret. She felt free. Lauren woke the next morning in a room that didn't feel real. The bed was soft. The sheet smelled of lavender, and sunlight streamed in through wide windows, framed by pale curtains. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she remembered the night before, the confrontation with Mr. Dalton, the quiet drive across town, Catherine's warm embrace. This was no dream. She was in the Bennett home. A knock came at the door. Grace peeked in with a bright smile. "Breakfast is ready. Grandma says you're not allowed to leave the table until you've eaten at least 2 pancakes." Lauren gave a small laugh, though her voice still trembled. "I don't remember the last time I had pancakes." "Then you're in for a shock," Grace grinned. "Dad makes too many. Come on!" Downstairs, the dining room table was already crowded. Catherine sat at the head, regal in a silk blouse. Anna perched on her lap. Richard was pouring coffee, while Daniel flipped pancakes in the kitchen like he'd been born to do it. "Good morning, sweetheart," Catherine said warmly, as Lauren sat down. "Did you sleep well?" Lauren nodded. "Better than I have in years." "Good. You need your strength. We have much to talk about." As plates were passed around, Lauren tried to steady herself. The food was delicious, but she ate slowly, overwhelmed by the sense of belonging she hadn't felt in so long. After the meal, Catherine insisted on speaking with her in the sitting room. The older woman's voice was gentle but firm. "I lost my sister when I was a child. For decades I wondered if she survived, if she was happy. And now you are here, her granddaughter. I want you to know you are part of this family, and family takes care of one another." Lauren's throat tightened. "I don't want to be a burden." Catherine took her hand. "You are not a burden. You are a blessing. Your grandmother kept her promise to protect that box. Now it has brought you back to us." Lauren blinked back tears. "She never stopped loving you. She talked about you before she passed, though she didn't know if you were alive." Catherine's eyes filled, but her smile was steady. "Then she gave me the greatest gift. You." Daniel entered the room, his badge still clipped to his belt. "I've spoken with the precinct. Dalton won't bother you again. He's packing up. He knows what's coming if he doesn't." Lauren exhaled a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thank you." He shrugged. "You shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. That's on him, not you." Catherine rose slowly, her hand still on Lauren's. "From now on, you'll stay here. No more scraping by in that apartment. No more debts hanging over your head. We will help you rebuild." Lauren looked around the room, at Catherine's steady gaze, Richard's quiet strength, Grace's curious smile, Anna's innocent eyes. For the first time since she was a child, she felt safe. But beneath the warmth, a question nagged her. Could she ever truly belong in a world so different from the one she came from? The days that followed passed in a haze of comfort Lauren wasn't used to. Catherine insisted she settle into one of the guest rooms, filling the closet with clothes Grace no longer wore, and pressing grocery money into her hand even when Lauren tried to refuse. Richard sat with her one evening in the library, a quiet room lined with shelves of old leather-bound books. "You're still thinking about leaving," he said gently. Lauren looked down at her lap. "I don't belong here. This house, this family, it feels like another world. I'm used to bills on the counter, not servants in the kitchen. Richard leaned back in his chair. You belong because you're Evelyn's granddaughter. My mother has searched for a piece of her sister all her life. You're that piece. Don't run from it. Lauren didn't answer, but the words stayed with her. At night, though, the doubts returned. She'd sit by her window, staring at the garden below where Anna played, and wonder what Evelyn would think. Would she want her here? Or would she tell her to stand on her own 2 feet? One afternoon, Grace pulled her into town. You need fresh air, she said, linking arms. And we need to talk about your future. College? Work? What do you want? Lauren laughed nervously. I've never thought about it. Survival was all I cared about. Well, now you have space to think, Grace said brightly. Grandma says the first step is choosing, not rushing. Later that evening, Daniel found Lauren in the kitchen, washing dishes she hadn't dirtied. He leaned against the counter, watching her with his usual guarded expression. You're still nervous, he said. I don't want to take advantage, Lauren replied softly. Daniel shook his head. You've got it wrong. You're not taking. They're giving. And they want to. Trust me, I know my family. My grandmother hasn't looked this alive in years. Lauren turned off the water and dried her hands. Why are you being so kind to me? Daniel hesitated, then shrugged. Because I don't like seeing good people get crushed. You've had enough of that. Their eyes met for a moment before Lauren looked away, flustered. That night, Catherine called her into the study. On the desk sat both jewel boxes, side by side, gleaming under the lamp. These belong together, Catherine said firmly. And they belong to you now. Evelyn wanted you to protect them, and I want you to inherit what they mean. They are proof of our family's history. Proof that we endured. Lauren's fingers traced the edge of the box she had carried. For years, it had been a secret weight in her drawer. Now, it was something else. Connection. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I don't know how to thank you. By living, Catherine whispered. By letting yourself be happy. For the first time, Lauren believed it might be possible. Lauren began to slip into a rhythm at the Bennett home. Mornings were filled with Anna's chatter and Catherine's gentle questions over tea. Afternoons often meant errands with Grace, who treated her less like a cousin and more like a sister. Evenings were quieter. Sometimes Richard would tell stories of his childhood, or Daniel would come home late from the precinct, tired but always steady. But beneath the comfort, Lauren carried unease. Every kindness she received felt like a debt she couldn't repay. One evening, while helping Anna build a block tower on the carpet, Lauren spoke without thinking. Your family is so lucky to have you. Anna grinned. We're lucky to have you too. The words hit Lauren harder than she expected. Later, when the house grew quiet, she found herself in the study again. The boxes gleamed in the lamplight. She opened hers carefully, running her fingers over the velvet lining. Inside lay her grandmother's letters, faded but legible. She read Evelyn's handwriting, lines filled with hope, fear, and love. Catherine entered silently, pausing at the doorway. You've read them before? Lauren nodded. Hundreds of times. They were all I had. Now, They belong to both of us, Catherine said softly. She crossed the room, resting a hand on Lauren's shoulder. You are not meant to carry this alone anymore. The next day, Daniel stopped her as she walked through the hall. I need to ask you something. She blinked. What is it? I know you've been through hell, but I need to know if you're planning to stay, or if you're already halfway out the door. His tone was blunt, his eyes sharp. Lauren froze. I don't know. I feel like I don't fit. Daniel studied her for a long moment, then sighed. I get it. I felt the same once. My father and I, we didn't see eye to eye. I moved out, swore I'd never come back. But when Anna was born, everything changed. I realized you don't walk away from people who care, even when it's hard. Lauren lowered her gaze. I don't want to disappoint anyone. You won't, he said firmly, unless you run. That night, Lauren lay awake, torn between fear and a longing for belonging she hadn't felt in years. She was still awake when Anna padded into her room, clutching a stuffed rabbit. I had a bad dream, the girl whispered. Lauren lifted the blanket and let her climb in. Anna nestled close, small and warm, and within minutes her breathing steadied. Lauren stared at the ceiling in the dark, her hand resting lightly on Anna's back. For the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider looking in. She felt like part of something fragile, precious, and real. And the thought scared her even more than being alone ever had. The following week tested Lauren's fragile sense of safety. One afternoon, as she returned from the market with Grace, she noticed a familiar figure leaning against a car across the street. Mr. Dalton. His face tightened when their eyes met, but he didn't move toward her. Instead, he smirked before sliding into the driver's seat and pulling away. Lauren froze on the sidewalk. He's still here. Grace's smile faded. You need to tell Daniel. That evening, Daniel listened without interrupting as Lauren described what she had seen. His jaw tightened. I warned him. He's pushing his luck. Catherine spoke firmly from her armchair. I won't have that man circling this house. Daniel, do what you must. Daniel nodded. He won't bother her again. Lauren felt both relief and guilt. She didn't want this family dragged into her past, but Catherine's unwavering stare left no room for argument. 2 days later, Daniel came home late. Lauren was waiting in the kitchen, pretending to tidy up. Well? She asked softly. He's gone, Daniel said simply. Left town this morning. Won't be back. She swallowed hard. What did you do? Daniel's eyes narrowed. Does it matter? She hesitated, then shook her head. No, thank you. For the first time, his expression softened. Stop thanking me. Stop believing you deserve better. The words lingered with her. Over the weekend, Catherine gathered everyone in the garden for lunch. The late summer sun warmed the table. Laughter mixed with birdsong. And for a moment, Lauren allowed herself to breathe. She even laughed when Anna spilled juice on Richard's sleeve. Yet beneath the warmth, she still felt unsteady. When Grace asked about her plans for the fall, Lauren admitted, I don't know where to start. School? Work? I've never had choices before. Catherine reached across the table, covering Lauren's hand with her own. Then we'll take it one step at a time. You don't have to rush. That night, Lauren returned to her room and sat by the window. The jeweled box rested on her nightstand, glimmering faintly in the moonlight. For years, it had been her secret burden. Now it felt like a key, unlocking a door she wasn't sure she was brave enough to walk through. But as she thought of Catherine's steady hand, Daniel's blunt honesty, Grace's cheerful insistence, and Anna's innocent trust, Lauren realized something had changed. For the first time, she wanted to stay. Autumn arrived with a crisp bite in the air, and with it, a shift in Lauren. She no longer hovered at the edges of conversations. She helped Anna with school projects, walked with Catherine through the garden, and even teased Richard when he told long stories at dinner. One afternoon, Grace pushed a stack of college brochures across the table. I circled programs you might like. Social work, teaching, maybe nursing. You're good with people. Lauren, you listen. Lauren smiled faintly. I don't even know if I'm smart enough for college. Smart enough? Daniel's voice came from the doorway. You kept yourself alive when no one else helped you. Don't ever question that. Catherine added softly, your grandmother would be proud. The words sank into Lauren's chest like an anchor. She picked up the brochures and for the first time didn't push them away. Weeks passed. The jeweled boxes remained side by side in the study, no longer symbols of loss, but of reunion. Catherine often sat with Lauren, sharing stories of Evelyn. Her laugh, her stubborn streak, her kindness. Lauren felt she was meeting her grandmother all over again, this time not in whispers, but in a full voice. One chilly evening, Lauren walked with Daniel along the path behind the house. Leaves crunched underfoot, the air sharp with the scent of pine. You've changed, Daniel said. How so? You're not waiting for the ground to fall out from under you anymore. You're standing on it. Lauren stopped, looking at him. Do you really think I belong here? Daniel met her eyes. I know you do. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. Then Anna's laughter rang out from the porch, breaking the moment and reminding them both of what they had. By winter, Lauren no longer thought of the Bennett home as their house. She thought of it as home. She had choices now. A family who wanted her. A past that no longer felt like a chain, but a thread tying her to something larger. And when she stood in the study one quiet evening, fingers brushing the jeweled boxes, she whispered a promise to Evelyn. I'll live. I'll make it count. And she knew she meant it. If you like the story, I would be very happy to have your support. Click the thumbs up. And to not miss new stories, subscribe and click on the bell. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and all the best.